Website called Battle Red Blog right there, dedicated to them Houston Texans. Houston Texans have always been an intriguing football team. They've experienced a modicum of success, yet they've always been just bad enough to not make the playoffs. And I'm looking at today's ESPN Power Rankings. And even though the Final Four in the NFL last year were the Bears and the Packers, the Jets and the Steelers, ESPN has their top four as Packers, Patriots, Eagles, and Saints, with the Steelers, Falcons, Jets, Colts behind them, then the Ravens and more. And where do they have the Houston Texans? They have them at 16. And in a 32-team league, as we bring in our guest, Tim McHale, the editor of Battle Red Blog. So on the offensive side of the ball, very first question, let's start with Arian Foster. And I'll ask it from a fantasy perspective. He clearly, by last year's statistics, should be the #1 pick in all fantasy drafts. But should he? Is he going to have that same year this year?
Tough to say that he would have the same year. I mean, last year was really a revelation. I think he'll have an excellent year, but I think if you're expecting him to catch lightning in a bottle like that 2 years in a row, that might be asking a little too much. I still think he's a dynamic running back. He's a tremendous fit for the offense. The issue you got with the Texans, though, is that they do have so many other weapons, and I think what might be a little underrated that people aren't talking about as much, that Owen Daniels will now be a year removed from that ACL, over a year removed, I should say, from that ACL injury, which last year limited him greatly. But he's apparently looked tremendous in camp, has said he's felt as good as he ever has since before the injury. I think that because he could return to the weapon he was in the first half of 2009, that gives them one more option and potentially gives them one more guy who could potentially cut off some of Foster's numbers.
It's always remarkable to me that I know Bill Belichick, for example, here in New England, his philosophy is never to draft wide receivers high. He'll go find them other places. He'll take a shot at a Joey Galloway or a Randy Moss. He'll get Chad Ochocinco. The highest he's drafted guys is Deion Branch in the second round, who was great, or Chad Jackson, who was great. Most of the top receivers taken in the draft never pan out to be what they're expected. Andre Johnson is the model for a guy that was worthy of his draft pick. He's just been, he's a machine, isn't he?
He really is, and when you think about the fact that he was stuck with David Carr as his quarterback for the first half of his career, it's even more outstanding and more amazing as to what he's done. He truly is. I think you said it. I think he's the model for a wide receiver. I don't think there's a better one in the game. He is the rare wide receiver who has truly lived up to the hype. Now, if you want to get critical about it, you can certainly say that the Texans were sort of given Andre Johnson because Lions had the tough pick at Charles Rogers or Andre Johnson, and they unfortunately for them made the wrong pick. Otherwise, we might have been laid with Travis or with Charles Rogers, and then all of a sudden we're not talking about how brilliant the Texans are for taking Andre Johnson in the first round.